Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another review. Now, this is a film that a little while ago I was talking on Skype with my friend Efrey, and he had sent me an email about this movie, asking what did I think about the trailer. And I had forgotten about that this movie had come out, because I had heard of this film, because it stars and is directed by Jason Mewes. Now, for those who don't know who Jason Mewes is, he was Jay of Jay and Silent Bob. He was in Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Dogma. He had a bit problem with drugs, but gladly he got cleaned up. And I know there's something to do with his teeth, so he doesn't sound like he used to. But at least he's in a good place. He's got a kid. Anytime you hear anybody talk about him, they say he's got a nickel head but a big heart. That he's a very, very nice guy. You never hear anybody say bad thing about him. He does seem like a really good guy. And I had seen the trailer for this, and I actually thought this looked more interesting than Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. And in case people asked about that, that film is nowhere around here to watch. It's what they're doing is they're going like different cities, and yeah, that's not available to watch. But this was Jason Mewes finally got to direct, as well as star in a film. I mean, he had starred in a couple of the films. Like there's one where he played a silent killer called Silent But Deadly, which I've never seen. There's been a few others as well. I think there was one called Shoot the Hero. I haven't seen too many of them. But this, I mean, looked a bit more interesting, because it looked like it was a different kind of role for Jason Mewes, and a little bit of a meta stuff, because it's Jason Mewes playing himself, in a world where he was Jay of Jay and Silent Bob. He wants to be a more important actor. He wants to branch out. And it's very silly. It's very goofy. All the jokes don't land. But there's enough about it that I liked that I could say I was entertained by it. It's a film that's hard to recommend to people. Because, you understand, this cover of the guy that's talked shit about Kevin Smith, not as a person, but just his work of late. To me, the last good thing Kevin Smith was involved with was Clerks 2. That was like around 2006. Then you had Zach Demir Make a Porno, which I thought was a lame attempt at a Judd Apatow movie. Tusk, with a very unlikable character played by Justin Long, and a very stupid, silly plot of this guy wanting to turn into a fucking walrus. Red State, which was very boring, and it led to nowhere. It really literally led to nowhere. Yoga Hosers, which was Kevin Smith's worst film. The reason I bring up Kevin Smith, because he is in the film. He didn't direct it or anything, but he is in the movie. But I'm just saying, with the Jay and Silent Bob reboot, I think this is a guy who's lost his way with writing. Who knows? Maybe the film could surprise me, like Joker did. That would be nice. It would be nice. I like to be surprised. I really do. But this, I followed Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith for a while. Yeah, I remember the first thing I saw was Mallrats on VHS. And then that led to Clerks, which I saw on IFC, Independent Film Channel, way, way back in the day. This is probably around 2001, 2002, somewhere around there. Maybe even before that. And it might have been around, no, it was probably around 2000. Because then that was leading up to Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, which is 2001, which I was really excited about because I was really getting into this guy named Kevin Smith. So I've grew up with these guys for a while. And there's a scene in this movie at the end, near the end, where Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes really go at each other verbally. That knowing enough about him, I know there was real stuff that they used for that, real backstory about that, and I would say it's one of the better acting ones for both of them. And Kevin Smith isn't in this a lot, but uh, that scene was a nice surprise. I'm like, oh, okay, this has a little bit of a note. It's very silly, it's goofy, a lot of times stupid, over the top. But again, it's rough around the edges. It's Jason Mewes' first time directing. Again, all the jokes don't land. Like the Vinnie Jones, some of the jokes involved with him don't land. Sometimes the editing, it seems as if scenes just end and then they move on to another one, and so it almost seems like abrupt editing. Like, okay, I guess we're finished with that scene. So you can tell that Jason Mewes does have stuff to learn as a director, but for a first-time film, I don't want to say if ambitious is the right word, but he was trying. I just say he was trying. And granted, I'm not going to automatically give a film a participation award for trying, but again, there's enough that I liked about. I liked Jason Mewes himself. I liked his acting. The cameos, some of them were fun, especially Cain and Zach Galligan. If you do see this film, stick with the end credits because Zach Galligan has he's in it before, but there's a fun little bit with him in the end credits between him and Jason Mewes. That was entertaining. Teri Hatcher. They don't have Cain and Teri Hatcher in the same screen, which is a missed opportunity because it's Lois and Clark. But they do both have a cameo in this. Danny Trejo. I mentioned Vinnie Jones, Kevin Smith. But I mean, of the cameos, like I said, I think Cain and Zach Galligan were the best ones. Danny Trejo, he's method acting for a movie, so he acted like he's gay. But then there's certain moments where he breaks his method character, which got a couple chuckles out of me. Vinnie Jones, he wasn't really bad, but it's one of the... Okay, the plot of the film, I should get to that. It's 8 minutes in. Like I said, Jason Mewes playing himself. You have an opening where he talks about he's doing this audition. Doing pretty decent in the audition, but the roles he auditions for, they always want him to play the stoner sidekick. And he'll get people want selfies and, oh, I can't believe you're still alive. And he tells his story using cartoon pictures, like about his mom, and his mom was a drug addict, which that is real, sad to say, and how his mom would try to get him to steal things from mailboxes, which I believe that did really occur, because sadly he didn't have the best childhood, sadly. But then, again, you could tell they can only use certain movies, because when they talk about that, you see clips from Clerks and Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. And I don't think you saw clips from the other movies. It was mainly those two. But one thing leads to another. He gets with this guy who has this book about method acting, and he's like, don't read it too fast. But of course he does, and he gets really obsessed with trying to stretch out his acting career and go to greener pastures. What the trailer doesn't really tell you, this is kind of a horror comedy. And the horror aspect is that some death is involved. Like, just in a fight with a guy, this casting guy who is messing with him earlier, and accidentally runs the guy over, then accidentally runs over him again. And he was using Vinnie Jones' car, so they think Vinnie Jones did, so he gets arrested. And like I said, some of the jokes that don't work, like Vinnie Jones for some reason has a pair of balls hanging around his dashboard, and this one, I didn't care for this actor who's on the news. Anytime they talk about Vinnie Jones, about how he grabs people's balls, and or I don't know what the fuck they were going with that. Like I said, some of the humor could have been a lot better. Like I said, this is rough around the edges. But stuff I did like, Gina Carano as Jay's wife, his girlfriend. She was actually pretty decent. Not bad at all. This little website they came up with, moviestarrating.com, where you type in an actor and they list where, I guess, popularity-wise he ranks. And before the website starts, it's like this little emoticon of Jay and this like mouth moving like South Park. Stoochie Boochies, Stoochie Boochies, Stoochie Boochies. I don't know why. Anytime that appeared, it kind of made me smirk. And just certain little moments, like when he accidentally hits a guy, and then, oh, I got this, and he accidentally reverses in his reaction to that. Or him trying to do this other movie, and Zach Galligan is like this English director, and another actor is like, oh great, silent fucking SpongeBob thinks he's Robert De Niro. One moment with Dean Cain, who's a guy who's incognito. He's like, I could negotiate peace treaty in the Middle East and talk about, and they go, call me Superman. I see my dreams. I'm going to get shot. And you know what the last thing I'm going to see? And then Jay stops for a minute and goes, Zod? I don't know, just little moments like that that made me chuckle. I'm like, okay, But then you get lame jokes like a reporter that keeps talking about Vinnie Jones being a ball grabber. It's like, oh, great. Oh, another cameo, a Stan Lee. Probably the last thing he ever got to film was a cameo in this. So that was nice to see. Rest in peace to Stan. And the directing's not bad. There's some good looking aerial shots of the city. There's certain things where the text of the book he's reading are kind of being propelled along the screen. The score at times is fairly decent. There's little moments like he's trying to kill a guy and he throws it, but then the knife just smacks the guy in the face. Brian O'Halloran from Clerks, he pretty much plays a slimy version of himself. And he's got this film that he's directing that's the talk of the town. And he finds out, it was kind of interesting to see Brian O'Halloran play a different kind of role, sort of an asshole version of himself. Which in essence is kind of an asshole version of Dante. And the ending, I also chuckled and laughed at, because I didn't expect that's how it ended, but it was actually kind of a fun way of ending. I'm going to spoil it, so for those who don't want spoilers. He finds out that, Dean Cain comes back and tells Jay that Brian O'Halloran made sure he wouldn't get the lead role in this upcoming film. The studio wanted him. And then finds out that Kevin Smith kind of led Brian to not having that happen. And that's where the big, yelling match between the two happens. And again, that scene is definitely the best part of the movie, because you see some truth to that scene. Kevin Smith goes, hey, if you're a lead, it could flop, and when you carry a flop, you start turning to substances. Look at me, I became a stoner. Why? Zatimir make a porno. Which that is true. That is true. And then, telling, if this film bombs, you don't know about the substances. I don't know why I can't say the word. Maybe I'm stoned. Oh, I don't do that. Actually, I never have. I'd be too scared to do it, to be honest. And, Jay say, oh yeah, well, what, maybe if this succeeds, then I'll be bigger, and then when I do one of your movies, it'll actually make some money. So, I mean, I like that scene. And then, Jay is using a nail gun on Brian O'Halloran, and then he thinks Gina Carano's cheating on him, but that wasn't the case. Gina Carano, you see what's going on with her, but she was actually trying to, not seduce, but try to get this kid to give up this comic book that Jay wanted. And then she's like, wait a minute, you don't kill Brian for me? Oh, baby. It's very, silly tongue-in-cheek. So they kill Brian or Halloran, and they set Kevin Smith up for the murders. So Kevin Smith goes to jail. And you easily, Jay! So I just, being a fan of these actors and following their career, it just made me laugh that, Jason Mewes setting up Kevin Smith to go to jail for the rest of his life. Something about that made me chuckle. And then the end credits, the reason I like that is you have Zach Galligan, this time not playing the English director, playing himself, and they're in a theater. And it's kind of a meta breaking the fourth wall where it's like, yeah, come on, you don't give me a role? I already gave you a role. I know, but you give me 2 roles. I could play that guy. Well, I gave it to Dean Cain. And then Zach Galligan, you gave it to Cain? Super bitch. Come on, I did Gremlins and Gremlins 2. So that made me laugh. Judd Nelson, he's in a Blink and You Miss at the end credits where he's on the movie screen they're watching. So like I said, it's a movie that's rough around the edges. The humor doesn't always work. Like the stuff with Vinnie Jones and him being a ball grabber, and there's some other humor that doesn't really hit home. There's that part of you that does wonder, maybe should they have tried to take this a little bit more serious is not the right word, but a little bit more, maybe serious is the word I'm looking for, and not so much of our cartoon. Maybe that would have been a bit more interesting. But again, being a fan of these guys, it was cool to see Jason Mewes play a different kind of role, sort of a take off his persona. Certain moments that made me smirk. The assortment of cameos. Man, didn't you? Dean Galligan, Stan Lee, Danny Trejo. There were quite a few people in there. That one scene with Kevin and Jay near the end, it's definitely one of the better acting moments for both guys. I mean, humor is subjective, and yeah, I wouldn't call this a gem or underrated or, oh my god, it's one of those that time waster. May I put a little bit above time waster? I'm glad I saw it. I don't know if I would ever seek it out to purchase, but I'm glad I saw it at least once. At least it tried to be a little bit different. It wasn't just a copy and paste. I didn't feel it was lazy. I just felt this maybe a guy who his first time directing. There's some tints in there. Another piece of humor is the guy that gives in the book. From time to time, people stare at him and they're like, "No, do not fall in love with me." So like that joke kind of wore thin. But I would say if you're a big fan of Jason Mewes, you want to see how he is as a director, first time directing, him play a different type of role, a different version of himself. Some fun cameos and a couple chuckles here and there. It's at least, I think, worth a watch. I don't think it's a film a lot of people will love, but I liked it. I mean, if considering how this year has been, it'd be in my top 10. It'd be lower down the list. I don't know, maybe number 10 or 9 or something. I mean, again, there hasn't been a lot of great movies, for me at least. I don't know. I haven't seen all the films for 2019, so maybe it won't reach the top 10. But there's still a couple movies I still need to check out that might be on there. But it's silly, goofy, at times stupid, above average time waster. So I liked it. Didn't love it. Tints in the armor, but I liked it. So either way, thanks for watching. Take care, and we will see you